Throughout your day, you are constantly presented with two different pathways. Pathway 1 usually causes you to suppress your desires, contract, and ultimately live with a lackluster expression of self. Pathway number 2, on the other hand, leads to growth and abundance. It's an expansive pathway where the things that you want are things that you can have and things that you do have. Now, unfortunately, most people spend their lives walking down pathway number 1. And the worst part is that the difference between path 1 and path 2 is so simple, and anybody can make this decision in any given moment, but most people don't. When I decided that I'd like to work for myself and be relatively self-sufficient, I had to make the decision to not get a job. I didn't want my life to be lived on the terms of a contract. I didn't want 9 to 5 to be a part of my schedule. And frankly, I felt I could make more money and have a more enjoyable life if I just did my own thing. So when I began offering my creative services, I found myself in a situation where I was making very little money and very infrequently. So I would have clients that were asking for so much and giving so little, and they were awkward and frustrating, and the work itself was just silly. From what I had heard, this is how business starts, and you just have to suck it up at the beginning. And to an extent, I do agree with that. However, in hindsight, I can see that I was clearly on path number 1. And pathway number 1 is where you take what you can get. I took a video editing job from this guy, and he was paying £10 per hour. The work was monotonous, it was boring, and he was kind of annoying. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, he told me what he wanted, and I said okay, even though it wasn't what I wanted. And for a long time, I continued working with this person, and I continued taking the £10 an hour, and I continued struggling to pay my rent and make ends meet, and I continued being miserable. Pathway 1 was not serving me. It wasn't allowing me to show up in the work that I was doing or to show up as the person that I want to be. And if I stayed on that path, then I would have persisted in having this mediocre, contracted experience of life. Now, the alternative is pathway number 2. Pathway number 2 is available to everybody and anybody, but it takes incredible courage and vulnerability. And it might seem worse on the surface than pathway number 1, but I promise pathway number 1 is detrimental to your overall well-being, your overall experience of this life, to your purpose, your soul, whatever you want to call it, suffers the longer that you stay on pathway number 1. Because pathway 1 is not you. It's what you think you're supposed to be. We're conditioned to be polite and reasonable. And of course, politeness and reasonability, if that's even a word, is very important. It's not about avoiding responsibility or being an asshole, but it's about presenting yourself fully and truly in any situation, be it to a potential partner, be it to a business client, be it to your family, your friends, or otherwise. It's about presenting who you actually are in all of your integrity and expansiveness, and allowing them to engage with that version of you. Tell me, do you notice the difference between these two questions? Pathway number 1. Would you like to go on a date with me? I'm asking the person, do they want to go on a date with me? How does that feel? It's like I'm asking permission before I ask you on a date. Pathway number 2. I want to go on a date with you. What do you think? It's a lot more assertive, I would say, because I've expressed my honesty, my truth. I want to go on a date with you. Now it's up to you as to whether or not you want to go on a date with me. If you don't, that's okay. If you do, great, let's go. Pathway number 1. I'm not sure I'm actually allowed to ask for what I want, so I'm just going to make sure that you're okay with me asking first. And pathway number 2 is, look, I know what I want. If it's aligned with what you want, I'm excited to see where this goes. Let's bring this into business for a second, because it's applicable there as well. If somebody tells me, David, I have a budget of 5,000 euros, can you do it? I'm a lot more likely to say, yeah, sure, because they've told me what their budget is. But if they say, David, we were hoping to get this done for 5,000 euros, you can bet that I'm going to say, yeah, I can do it for 6,000, maybe 6,500. The one that's choosing pathway 1, they're opening themselves up to negotiation. They're not actually being honest with me. Whereas if they're like, look, we only have 5 grand to work with, can you do it? I'm like, okay, I appreciate that honesty. It just cuts to the chase. You remove all of the bullshit guessing, wondering like, oh, are they playing a tactic? Just be honest, just be real. We don't need to make games out of everything. I might regret saying that now because people will be contacting me. using my own tactic against me. But this is for everybody. Look, we want to be aligned with the people that are aligned with us. So if we're honest about our budgets, if we're honest about our feelings, we can be met where we're at. We don't need to make everything this weird mental gymnastics guessing game nonsense. It's a waste of our time, and it's a waste of our energy, and it's a waste of the beauty that we can bring into the world if we align with that pathway that nourishes ourselves, is in integrity with our inner world, and then bring that into the outer world. And we're not saying that by choosing pathway 2, you get all of the romantic relationships you want, that you get all of the money you want. No, there's still negotiation there. Someone can say no, even though you've chosen pathway 2. I want to go out with you. What do you think? And they say, no, I don't want to. That's okay. I only have a budget of 4,000. Well, actually on this occasion, it's going to cost 5,000. I can meet you there at 5,000, but we have costs. We got to cover it. No problem. We don't have to work together on this occasion. We don't have to be together on this occasion. Pathway 2 is not about getting everything you want every time, but it's about being honest about what you want so that you can get it on the occasions when it aligns. See, pathway number 1, you're going to be fine. You know, you'll make a bit of money here. You'll have some relationships there, but you will never reach the full potential of what's possible for you because you're not asking for it. You're not expressing what it is that you want. You're watering it down because you're afraid of being rejected. That's totally understandable, because the embarrassment that I would feel if someone says, no, David, we can't do it for that much money. Or, no, David, I don't want to date you. No, David, I don't want to hang out with you. If you have some sexual fetish that you think is weird, and so you don't bother asking someone for it, and you just instead hope and pray that one day someone says, oh yeah, I want to put it up there. You're going to live your whole life wondering what that's like. And the worst part is, the thing that you think is weird, that everyone's going to think is weird and be repulsed by, they're probably into it too. You could be both there thinking, oh, I really want to do that. But what if he or she thinks I'm a freak and leaves? Because if you can't get the full potential with this person, you can bet that there is someone that you can get your full experience from. But you have to be willing to let go of the mediocre one. And it's not that that's bad, it's just there is more for you. If you think there's more, then there is more. You just need to go for it. It's a huge hit to the ego, but we can bounce back from that. And we don't need to be afraid of that embarrassment. That is the conditioning that keeps us on pathway number 1. The conditioning tells us that we can't feel those feelings, that we can't feel sad, that we can't be rejected, that we can't be disliked. You're never going to be liked by everybody. And that's fine. You don't need to be liked by everybody. And you might say, oh, I don't want to put them in an awkward position. It's not your responsibility whether or not they are in an awkward position. If they can't afford you, that's okay. They need to manage their own emotions on the other side. You can't be managing other people's emotions. Like, oh, I don't want to be so forward and say that I want to go out with somebody because, maybe it'll make them awkward. So what? It's okay for them to be awkward. You can't suppress yourself because you're afraid of how other people are going to respond. That's trying to regulate other people's emotions. That's trying to people please. You can't fight that fight. That's for them. That's their journey. And you're not a bad person for being honest and, triggering their healing or whatever it might be that's happening for them. We get so confused. We say, oh, I don't want to upset them by giving them a quote that's this high. And so you upset yourself by giving a quote that's way less than what you want. You choose pathway number 1 because you believe pathway number 2 is going to hurt someone. But really it's you that you're hurting by choosing the other path. The first step to getting what you want in life is asking for what you want. And just because you ask for what you want does not mean that you're going to get what you want right away. But you're a hell of a lot less likely to get it if you don't even ask for it in the first place, because you're hoping it's going to plop out of the sky. And I've learned this the hard way. The idea that, oh, if I just close my eyes and set an intention and ask the universe for something, that it's going to come. No, you have to ask the person. You have to ask the business. You have to propose the deal. You have to put yourself in the situations that are going to make that thing happen. Because otherwise you're totally at the mercy of things happening to you. We want to make things happen for us. And in order for things to happen for us, we need to be the co-creator in that experience, and we need to be honest, and we need to know what we want, and we need to express that clearly. And here's the thing, you're doing a disservice to everybody involved when you don't truly express what you want. Because if you want 500 euros for that job, but you agree to do it for 300, and you know that 300 is not enough to compensate you or to compensate the expenses or whatever, you're going to do that job with disdain and frustration. When I took that job working for that guy for £10 an hour, I was angry every moment. You can ask my roommate at the time. I was just complaining all of the time about this dude. And he didn't deserve that. I agreed to take the £10 an hour when it was not what I wanted. I chose path one and it contracted me and nobody benefited from it. The person that you want to ask out on a date, they could be waiting for you to ask. They could be so excited for the future that you might have together. But because you're afraid of being rejected, you don't even ask in the first place. And so you stay in this weird place where you're not really happy with what's happening. But you're just afraid of the unknown. If you did take pathway number 2, you're afraid of the rejection. And while there is a potential that you will be rejected, there is also a possibility that you'll get exactly what you want. This isn't just about getting what you want. It's about getting what we all want for each other. We all want the best service that's done with the most integrity and honesty and purity and excitement. We all want the best relationship that you can be fully present in. We all want the situation that expands us. And yeah, we might need to compromise here and there. We might need to negotiate at times. We're not throwing that out the window. Like, you can't get 100% of what you want every time. But you have to at least put it on the table and then take it from there. If you don't put your desire on the table, then you're just going to be constantly molding yourself to the desire of other people. And that's not good for anybody. There's an imbalance there. And look, if you're struggling with confidence around choosing this second pathway, I've made a meditation. It's down in the description. It's free. It's a meditation for confidence and empowerment, and it's going to help you choose pathway number 2. Because the first step to choosing pathway number 2 is to recognizing the value that you have, the gifts that you have to share, and then giving you the confidence to live with that knowing and actually put it into practice. So that's down in the description. You can also sign up to my free newsletter community where I share newsletters that are around similar topics. We go a bit deeper. You can respond to the emails there and you can get in direct contact with me too. Other than that, thanks for being here. You're a beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy stuff like this. Like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.